Tom Walsh was a Malden teenager when he joined the Navy, boarded the USS John F. Kennedy. When the ship first hit the water, 40 years later, I asked Tom to share some stories about pranks he recalls. As he talks, I'll show you some pictures of sailors on the JFK's last trip before decommissioning a trip to Boston.
I knew sometimes that if we were mad at one of the sailors or something he did, some event that made us kind of upset, we would unbolt his bunk.
Unbolt his bunk?
Yeah, so, unbolt it, or let it just threads be just very gingerly attached to it. So when he jumped up into the bed, he would crash to the floor. We did that a couple times.
That's a terrible thing.
Well, you have to have fun. I remember one time there was a sailor that got us all in trouble, so we threw all his underpants overboard when he came back from the laundry. We used to put shaving cream in people's hands, and then while they were asleep, and fill up their hand with shaving cream, then take a feather or something and just scratch their nose, and they go like this. They wake up with all.
That's not very nice.
Well, you're bored, and you have to entertain yourself, so think of a torture.
I'm out here with Tom Walsh. We're on one of the decks here up on the JFK. Tom, it's been a few years since you were on this ship. As we stand out here, the wind going through what's left of our hair, I just wonder what your thoughts are.
Well, it brings back memories how freezing it used to be up here every once in a while, and we were always hoping that the ship would turn away from the wind so that it would be more calm. But of course, to launch off the planes, you had to be into the wind, so it was always in that angle that we were always at most of the time.
It was always a little uncomfortable.
A little uncomfortable, but they provide us with pretty good foul weather gear, if you will, and we were pretty comfortable. It wasn't that bad.
Tell me the meat story.
Oh, I remember one time one of the refrigerators on the ship broke down, and the meat got spoiled, and I heard it was 80,000 pounds, and we just threw it overboard. But the interesting thing about it was all the sharks that followed us for about 3 days afterwards. You didn't want to be man overboard in those days.
Once I had an Irish girl, but she was acting lazy. Away, all away, all away, Joe. And now I've got a Suffolk girl, she drives me nearly crazy. Away, all away, all away, Joe. I guess we're made to love and kiss, or so me mother told me. Away, all away, oh, all away, Joe. King Louis was the king of France before the Revolution. Away, all away, oh, all away, Joe.
So one time we were crossing to go on a 9-month cruise to the Mediterranean, and so I took a Coca-Cola bottle and I put my name and address in it, and we were halfway across the Atlantic, and I threw it overboard, and I forgot about it, and 2 years later I got a letter from Brazil. The guy was walking the beach, and he found my bottle with my address, and he just wanted to let me know where it was.
During this next story, you'll see pictures taken by a young sailor named Tommy Gilligan. He's from Newton. Some of the pictures are from the in-port cabin here on the ship, which is sort of a museum, a tribute to John F. Kennedy. You were arrested at one point when you were a sailor?
Yes. I was stationed on the Kennedy, and the ship was tied up at Pier 12. And at that time, because I was on the Kennedy, we had special privileges, and one of the privileges was that we could go anywhere we wanted in the United States as long as we were back. In those days, the rules was you couldn't leave outside a radius of 75 miles. So it was Friday. I had nothing else to do, so I thought I'd thumb home to Boston. And I got on the, it was easy to thumb because the minute you were in a uniform, everybody picked you up. You didn't last 2 or 3 minutes on the highway. So I got a couple rides, and one gentleman in New York took me all the way to South Boston, South Station. And I was on the Southeast Expressway thumbing when the paddy wagon came by, the Navy paddy wagon. And they said, "Were you thumbing?" And I said, "No." They said, "We saw you thumbing, and you're under arrest." So they jumped out of the car, out of the paddy wagon, and they put me in the back. And they said, "We're going to take you to the Fargo building." So they opened up the doors, and there was another sailor in there. He was like sick. He had thrown up all over the place, and so I wouldn't go in there. And so I resisted them from going in, and they started pushing me in, and I said, "Can't I just sit in the front seat with you guys?" And they said, "No, you're a prisoner." So they threw me in there, and I said, I made sure the guy didn't, throw up on me, and they took me to the Fargo building, put me in the brig, and they said to me as they were putting me in, what pier is your ship at? So I said, "Well, Pier 12. And so a couple minutes later, the arresting sailor came over. He said, "There's no such thing as Pier 12." And they took me to this map of Charlestown. And they said, "Look, it only goes to Pier 11. I said, "Well, you got the wrong map." I said, "I'm from Norfolk, Virginia." And he said, "You're not supposed to be outside your area." I said, "Well, I'm allowed because I'm on the Kennedy." So I showed them this special paper that we were all given. And the officer of the day said to me, he goes, "Oh, we're awful sorry we arrested you. It's an honor and pleasure to meet a sailor from the Kennedy. And we're sorry we inconvenienced you. Is there any way we can help you?" I said, "Well, can I call my father to come and get me?" And they said, "Sure." And I called my father at 2 in the morning, and he came over and got me, and I went home.
How old were you, Tommy?
20. I was 20 years old.
As we were a-fishing off Haysborough Light, shooting and hauling and trawling all night. It was windy old weather, stormy old weather. When the wind blows, we all pull together.
Tom, as we're standing on the bridge out here, you get nostalgic at all?
A little bit, because as I look out, I remember all the sea trips, the cruises I went on over to the Med and the Atlantic, and it brings back a lot of good memories about being out to sea again. Since it's been 40 years, 37 years, since I went out the last time.
You ever stand out here and think, "Gee, I'm 19 again"?
Well, it does feel like it was yesterday, so I guess indirectly I do. That it doesn't seem that many years had passed. It just seems like I said, yesterday, and looking out here.
Tom, your fondest memory of this old ship?
It was on our first cruise. We went over to the Mediterranean. We left on September 1968, and we weren't due back until April of 69. And it was the first time for me, being in the service, that I knew I would miss Christmas. And so we all knew that day was coming. And we were off the coast of Greece, and we got a radio signal from the Bob Hope USO show, and they made a surprise visit on the Kennedy, which kind of lifted our spirits. I said, but after the whole show was done, I said, the thing that I remember the most about it was all of us singing Silent Night at the end of the show. And I said, I'll always remember that.